Welcome to episode 305 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the repeat after me edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. We can repeat Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide, or we can repeat like Tyler Reddick has to start the first three races of the year, or Alex Palou by winning two in a row at St. Petersburg this past weekend. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and as always, I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, gentleman and a scholar, and traveling this week. So doing this one from the road, his name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, doing great, Phil, of course. Yeah, on the road again. But great weekend of racing here at St. Pete and at CoTA here. And three-peat for Tyler Reddick, so he gets to go and recreate that iconic Michael Jordan image of him with the three after winning at CoTA, and of course Michael Jordan winning three-peat at the NBA Finals back in the 90s. So Michael Jordan, Tyler Reddick here, all the hype around them, possibly talking about them saving NASCAR and all that, but yeah, a lot to get into here with all the racing that happened here this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we got IndyCar, we got all three major NASCAR series this past weekend, road racing, and then of course Formula One will be coming back this weekend for the first of what is supposed to be 24 races. Certain events going on in our world may affect when some of those races take place, or if some of those races take place. So we'll have to see how that goes. But we will definitely cover all three major NASCAR series, IndyCar, preview Formula One, talk about the Daytona Supercross and history made there by Eli Tomac, Nikita Johnson in Indy next. MotoGP was won by Marco Bezzecchi. And then Supercars will run their second race weekend of the year at Melbourne as a part of the Australian Grand Prix. We'll make our picks, make picks for the Australian Grand Prix, IndyCars at Phoenix with their doubleheader there, and NASCAR Cup and the O'Reilly Series at Phoenix. Make our picks. Josh will tell us all things going on in iRacing gaming in the sim segment, and then we will call it a day. So yeah, let's go with St. Petersburg, the Grand Prix, Indy Grand Prix, St. Pete, the usual opener for the NTT IndyCar series, and Jason Kelsey sitting there with no sleeves on his shirt. That's quite a decision. And that's just a weird looking shirt too. I don't know if Kylie told him to wear that. And then Jesse Punch now, she works for IndyCar, I guess, with on social media with Connor Daly. So yeah, the results of the race on Sunday, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Alex Palou started fourth, won the race, won his 20th race in his 99th start. Basically won the race after the first set of pit stops by overcutting the likes of Scott McLaughlin and others. McLaughlin started on pole, led 34 laps, finished second. Christian Lundgaard finished third. Kyle Kirkwood from 15th to 4th. Kirkwood started 12th and finished. Lundgaard 12th to 3rd. Pato O'Ward 8th to 5th. Marcus Ericsson started on the outside pole, led a lap, finished 6th. Joseph Newgarden, the hard charger of the day, from 23rd to 7th. Roman Grosjean, Rinus VeeKay 19th to 9th. Dennis Hauger in his first IndyCar start started third, but ended up finishing 10th. But both Dale Coyne cars finishing in the top 10. That's the first time in a while for them. Pit stops and sequences didn't work out so well for the Meyer-Shank duo. Armstrong and Rosenquist 11th and 12th. Same for Malukas, who started 5th, ended up 13th. Louis Foster, Kiffin Simpson, some of the guys that didn't have as good a fortune during the race. Alexander Rossi went from 25th to 16th. Caio Collet in his first race was 24th to 17th. And was a Ray Hall Rasmussen, your last two cars on the lead lap. Mick Schumacher and Root Beer Floathead were knocked out in the first lap in turn 4 by Stingray Robb, because it's Stingray Robb. Scott Dixon had multiple issues. He crashed during practice and then had issues during the race, and ended up having to get. I don't remember exactly what happened with him. Sorry, but his streak of not winning at St. Petersburg continues, which is crazy. Will Power had a terrible weekend. Was able to kind of salvage it in qualifying to be 13th, but had issues with braking the whole weekend, and then wasn't able to. He was having handling issues. He had crashed in practice too, so there is that. So, and Nolan Siegel was the only car that was one lap down. He got lapped like right at the end of the race, while his two teammates finished 3rd and 5th. So Tony Kanaan's butt boy was the only one that got lapped. So there's that. But I mean, we spent a lot of last year, Josh. It's all hello Palou, and how he does this every race, and they talk about it, just that efficiency by which he's able to go out there and systematically just destroy fields. And in the IndyCar series, he makes it seem like it's an F1 race. Like, it's crazy to say that. You know, I've joked around and we talk about competitiveness, and it is very competitive, but to win by the biggest margin of victory, 12.5 seconds or whatever the heck it was, for the margin of victory, biggest ever in the history of the St. Petersburg Grand Prix. They're like yelling, "Oh, we're back," and you know, all these, we won 8 races, but we lost 9. Like, I mean, that's the mentality, I guess, that you need to be able to succeed and to be able to make progress. But it's like insane to watch, and to have 6 months off to come back, start 4th, though. I mean, it wasn't as bad as last year's qualifying, so he was already further up. Take advantage of that, and then to go out there and be in a position to do what he did. He's clinical. I mean, I think they call him the surgeon. I think that's the nickname they've came with, or one of the nicknames they have for him, because it's just efficiency. It's efficiency at play.
Yeah, I mean, for Palou, and yeah, by the way, you know, I was at St. Petersburg on Saturday for the qualifying and seeing NASCAR trucks, which we'll get into later. But you know, seeing him in qualifying there, obviously didn't get the pole, but you know, I thought he was obviously really quick there in qualifying, and yeah, qualified 4th there. And then first part of the race, you know, it was a battle between Scott McLaughlin and Marcus Ericsson there. But here comes Palou being able to master the fuel saving and being able to overcut on that pit strategy, gets him ahead on track, ahead of McLaughlin and Marcus Ericsson. And then the first yellow comes out the first yellow after the opening green flag for Scott Dixon there, with the problem that he had with his wheel coming off, and then that kind of reset things there, and that put Palou up front and allowed him to kind of establish the pace there, and then, you know, put on a blistering pace there. And you know, you look at that run there before the final green flag pit stop. Marcus Ericsson just wasn't handling well. Looked like you know, he was 2nd place, but just all of a sudden, like, the gap was like, you know, I think it went maybe like a second or two, something fairly manageable. All of a sudden you look and he's back like 12-14 seconds, and like, the hell happened? Ericsson, he's gotta, like, it's like he's like, there's a sequence there where everybody was stacked behind him. It looked like he was just holding everybody up, and it led to some great racing there. You know, with Scott McLaughlin going around on the outside, going to turn 10. That's like, you don't see that ever in IndyCar. That's like, I don't think, yeah, that turn specifically, like, never seen anything like that happen before. But all that fighting for second behind him, that led to that opportunity for Palou to establish a huge lead and basically just maintain the gap there. Because from there, like, all you have to do is just don't make any mistakes, and then maintain and hit your fuel number and go through that last pit stop, and they were golden there for that final stretch. And McLaughlin was able to get close, within a certain amount of seconds, but then Palou was able to pull away there at the end. Kyle Kirkwood was on a similar strategy, but then they had to go save fuel at the end. Like, we thought maybe he would be able to close. He was on the soft tire, Palou was on the hard tire. Maybe he would close. I think he got within 4.5 or 5 seconds, and thought maybe he would be able to inch closer. But then at the end, he just went. Started dropping because he had to save fuel, so that took him out of the contention there for the win. So Palou just continues to be. I think the nickname for him is the Master of Precision, or whatever Townsend Bell comes up with. But I mean, it's a fitting nickname. It's not a bad nickname for sure, because it describes exactly who he is as a driver, and probably as a person too. Just a master at exactly what he does, and just levels above, not just him, but the whole team. The strategy that they were able to pull off there, levels above what they were able to do for compared to the rest of the field. So, and especially because it is a spec series, effectively, that magnifies it even more. And people talking about he should be in Formula One with McLaren. Obviously, the deal didn't work out, and they've settled the lawsuit, and he's having to do some back pay and all that to McLaren. But even with all of that, I mean, talk about what you said earlier, winning 8 races, but we lost 9, even though they still won the title and the Indianapolis 500. All of that, the mentality to reset and continue to dominate. That's what makes the great ones great. And certainly, Alex Palou's with the winning rate that he's on currently in his career, certainly make mark as potentially one of the greatest of all time in this series. So you talk about winning percentages, right? I mean, AJ Foyt hung around a long time, and probably I don't know what his winning percentage is, but it's probably lower than what even though he's won the most races, probably lower than what Palou's is right now. And certainly maybe even the same for Mario Andretti, and certainly Scott Dixon, best in the modern era right now. And I think Alex Palou is quickly making a case to overtake in that area. So already off to a good start here for Palou. And of course, all the rest of the field, I mean, lots of fighting, lots of overtaking, of course, throughout the field. Again with McLaughlin, Kyle Kirkwood, after the final pit stop, Kirkwood was able to almost a repeat of 2023 there with McLaughlin. What he had was Romain Grosjean back in 2023 with Kyle Kirkwood there. So lots of stuff that happened throughout St. Pete. Thought it was a solid weekend. Even though Palou dominated throughout all of that, thought it was a fairly compelling, fairly interesting race. Still had the first lap accident, which par for the course here at St. Petersburg. But other than that, thought it was fairly interesting, and definitely, to me at least, wasn't boring at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some aspects of the broadcast they could have probably done a little bit better in terms of showing some of the other battles, but the racing itself, I think the strategy, having to utilize the 2 sets of softs, the red tires, was a good change. I think, though, there's the aspect of the fuel save that had to come into play where that might have affected certain things. I do agree with Ericsson. He fell off a cliff on that second set of reds that basically made the gap, because Palou was making half a second a lap during that stretch, and that's really where, even with other people being affected, whatever, it didn't matter. The Dixon thing, I'd forgotten that it was the wheel. They left the wheel loose, which was just bad. For a team of that caliber, and considering you can't give them anything, the notion that that's their teammate and you're giving them those kind of mistakes, and that's a lot of points. You go from probably getting a top 10 finish and you end up finishing 23rd. That's He's already 40 something, 46 points or 45 points behind after one race. So there's no double points to make up that, so we'll see what they do at Phoenix this coming weekend. Short week turnaround to race on Saturday afternoon at Phoenix. So 3 races in 3 weeks for the Indy cars. So it'll be something to see how that all goes. And in terms of the NASCAR Cup Series, they raced the Duramax Grand Prix at Luis Gonzaga. Oh, lovely. Duramax Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. In the end, it was really Tyler Reddick's race. Blaney was up there with him most of the day, and then fell off late. Less than 3 hours to get the race done. They only had one caution for debris. Otherwise, it was just the stage breaks. Ross Chastain got the fastest lap point. Reddick ended up leading the most laps. I mentioned Blaney. Otherwise, there was a few other guys that led the race during pit stop sequences. Tyler Reddick, the winner, 3rd straight win for him. Shane Van Gisbergen finishes 2nd. Christopher Bell 3rd. Keebler Gibbs 4th. Michael McDowell 5th. Was trying to run an alternative strategy to try and make something happen. Larson 6th. Elliott 7th. Blaney 8th. AJ Allmendinger 9th. Denny Hamlin rounding out your top 10. So 3 Gibbs cars in the top 10. The one Gibbs car that didn't finish in the top 10 was Chase Briscoe, who started 3rd, was running up front and then broke an axle. So he ended up finishing dead last and got no stage points. So he gets 1 point for his work. Darrell Walsh Jr. just outside of the top 10 there. Byron was 13th. List some of these guys that actually got some stage points. Gilliland was 21st. He got some stage points. Busher, 24th. Suarez, 25th. He ran over Connor Zilic. One of the times Connor Zilic got run over. He finished 14th after getting spun twice, so credit to him. What is it? Custer, 29th. Hocevar, 31st. Ross Chastain won a stage, but ended up wrecked a couple laps down in 35th, and then Alex Bowman got sick to the point where Myatt Snyder, who was working for Fox Sports with Jamie Little as a spotter on pit road, got called in, got approved by NASCAR live, had never driven a Cup car, never driven a Gen 7 car, and was texting his good buddy Brad Perez, asking him for tips to get around the racetrack, and jumps into the Ally 48 car until they had some sort of mechanical or whatever, or fuel issue late. But Myatt Snyder makes his Cup Series first start in a Gen 7 car. I don't know if I don't remember him being in a Cup car.
I don't think he's ever started in Cup.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting how that all worked out. But he wasn't the only one that was getting sick. I mean, Allmendinger needed assistance out of the car. A couple other guys, I think Larson needed some help. Bosey did a video for Dirty Mo, talking about the issues with the cool suits and the cool shirts and that whole thing. So tells you what they're trying to do to get it, because of all the effects that there are with some of the systems they got. But I mean, Reddick, we could talk about super speedway racing and, the level of luck or whatever, putting yourself in a position. Reddick did that and made great moves at Daytona, and then made great moves at Atlanta too. But here, he just did what Shane Van Gisbergen did for a good amount of last year on these road courses, and he just opened a can on everybody. It really wasn't. There was really no drama in this race outside of the restarts. There really wasn't a whole hell of a lot of passing, which is not that surprising with this car. This track doesn't really suit these cars very well, I don't think. So, but, you know, it is what it is. But for Reddick, 3 in a row, and chance to go for 4 at Phoenix here this coming weekend, Josh.
Yeah, four in a row on hand now for Tyler Reddick, and yeah, the first 2 races, the Daytona 500, right? Final pit cycle, puts himself in position, going off cycle from the other Toyotas. To be up front and then be in position to make a move for the win and ultimately win the Daytona 500. Atlanta ran up front, led laps, but at the end, Bubba Wallace is in front, and Bubba Wallace tries to block Carson Hocevar, and then that opens the door for Reddick to take the lead there and get the race win there. So yeah, 2 in a row there. Gets it done there. And then here, CoTA, which, remember, he won before in 2023 and dominated in similar fashion, right? And by the way, Tyler Reddick is a really good road course racer as well. His first couple of wins were on road courses in cups, so not a surprise at all there. So they come to CoTA once again and just completely dominate the field. Started pole, finished first, led the majority of the race here, and now you're looking at him now going for 4 in a row potentially at Phoenix. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But more importantly, I think more than just 4 in a row, I mean, his point lead now, he's got a big point lead over the rest of the field, 70 points over his teammate in Bubba Wallace. So, incredible amount of point lead. He's almost won entire full race with the stages and the race win ahead of the entire field, which I think that gives him a lot of leverage here as we get into the early portion here. If he can continue this level of consistency, he's definitely going to probably be in the top 3 at the end for the playoff start, and then all he has to do is have a good 10 races. But certainly with the way that the points are going to be stacked going to the start of that, I mean, I think you've got to be in the top 3, and so I think now for him, I mean, it's just about maintaining until the summer and continuing to dominate as well. So kind of similar to Alex Palou, what we're talking about in IndyCar. I mean, Tyler Reddick is in a very similar position here, and so I think for the rest of the field to even catch up to him, I mean, really now, like, you've got to focus on outpointing guys like Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott are 2nd and 3rd in points, and are a lot closer to be able to reach to be in position for that top 3, which probably will give you a high likelihood of being in contention for the championship there. So I mean, he had really good car throughout the race. I mean, you saw it at the end after the final restart. Van Gisbergen was able to get ahead of Ryan Blaney there in the S's on that final restart. And I thought maybe Shane would be able to use his insane braking ability to be able to get around Tyler Reddick there on the first couple of laps on that restart, but just never had quite the same handling as Tyler Reddick there. You could see on the corners where you needed to have the drive off, Tyler Reddick just drove away from Shane Van Gisbergen, and Shane was able to in the S's turn 6A, he was able to kind of close up on Tyler Reddick there, but then when it came to the other corners, Tyler Reddick, like where they had drive off onto a straightaway, he was able to just keep motoring along and keep SVG at a distance there. So that was ultimately, I think what made the difference there in him being able to win that race there at the end. So it was pretty interesting from that aspect. The driver and the car mattering a lot as compared to the first 2 races. And yeah, this is a road course, but I think just the mentality of the driver being able to do what he needs to do and the car handling well, I think is going to be reflective over the next handful of races. So we get to more traditional races. We're on an oval rather than on a road course or a speedway race. But Tyler Reddick continuing to dominate there. So I mean, I think he's the early favorite, obviously, for the championship here. So, going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. If they can continue this, do they go on to a bit of a lull or have I guess, a dry spell or something where, they have some kind of, terrible luck or whatever. I mean, this is the next gen. I mean, what we've seen, a lot of volatility in this era, but I don't know if that's part of it due to the playoff era where you could kind of like try things and you knew you were qualified, so there was no risk to taking high risk moves or anything like that could potentially cost you a race or whatever, because as long as you won, you knew you were qualified in, and even with all the playoff points and all of that, there was still that cushion where you could kind of throw caution to the wind there. But now with going back to the chase format and all that stuff, it's going to definitely, we're already seeing the consistency is already paying off for the 45 and all that. So definitely, I think, as long as they don't have like a 3 or 4 race stretch of DNFs or something like that, I think they're probably got it in the bag to win the regular season and put themselves in a strong position to win the championship here. So we'll see how that goes. But for everybody else, SVG, obviously, I don't know if it's surprising that he didn't win, but obviously he was able to put it. I mean, you saw his driving talent there, being able to put a non-ideal car into second place there. And then also mentioned Zilich there, 14th, drove through the field twice. There's an 18-minute clip of him just making moves, passing the whole field at least 2 times. So, for Zilich, or most of the field anyways, for Zilich, he had a really strong car, just got cleaned out in turn 1 by Daniel Suarez, which I thought that was interesting. Daniel Suarez overshot the corner. That's his old car there, and he got cleaned out by his old teammate, because they were teammates technically last year there. And then late in the race, I think Eric Jones got into him on that final restart there and cleaned him out. So, but he was still able to fight back to get to 14th. So it tells you how good that car was and how good Zilich really is on road courses. And we were, interested to see how his ability would translate from the, O'Reilly Auto Parts cars to the Cup Series, and you're seeing it there already. Obviously, he's already won the Rookie of the Year by default, but certainly showing how talented he is there. Other things. Hocevar, of course, got cleaned out on the, coming to the white flag by Cole Custer. Starting to see some of the repercussions, I guess, for the way Carson Hocevar drives, and certainly, Cole Custer, guy that you don't want to mess with, I guess, there. At least one guy's willing to give him some payback there, or at least, not give him an inch there. So, it was pretty interesting. You mentioned Alex Bowman's situation there with Mayat Snyder taking the reins there late in the going, which shows you, to always be prepared. If you're a driver, always have your helmet and suit bag on you in case something happens there. So, obviously, a very unique situation to be in, of course. And then, like you mentioned there, with him texting Brad Perez there, I saw a comment on Reddit, and it was like, this is giving real, oh crap, the test is today vibes here. So I thought that was real funny. But really unfortunate for Alex there. But for somebody like Mayat Snyder, who's still, kind of on the sidelines here and is kind of taking racing, I guess, as taking back from racing, I guess, right now. I think he's in school right now or something like that, and on the side he's doing pit spotting for Jamie Little and Fox. So I guess maybe this might help him on his resume if another low-level Cup team, or if somebody needs him in O'Reilly or the Truck Series, maybe that could open a door for him and get him back to competing in full-time ride there with that. So really unique situation there. Certainly, hopefully Bowman's able to get back in it, which I think they approved him there. So or they not approved him, but they checked him out of the infield care center after the race. So that was a pretty unique situation there. But CoTA, of course, wasn't that exciting, not too much drama there, but I thought, again, kind of like similar to the IndyCar race, definitely thought it was, certainly a compelling race there, and you're seeing certainly up front at least, at the end, really interesting battle for the win there with, two guys who are really good at what they do, especially SVG being, the master of road courses, 5 wins in a row on road courses coming into this. And then Tyler Reddick, of course, now opening the season, going with the 3-peat there, and a lot of PR for him and Michael Jordan there. So yeah, we'll see if he can go 4 in a row at Phoenix. I mean, if he gets 4 in a row, if they win Phoenix, definitely think they can win Las Vegas and go for 5 in a row, which I think would be a record there. Nobody's ever done 5 in a row. It's been tried, 4 in a row has happened, but I think 5 in a row, there's always something that happens to them, which, as you go forward, every next race gets harder to win. So, I think we'll see how Phoenix goes, but it's gonna be interesting. It's definitely a storyline to follow as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with especially the fact that, being that he basically has maxed out points in terms of having a 1-race lead right now after winning these 3 races is a huge deal. It's something that we're going to look at also in the O'Reilly series because of how Hank Hill was able to do that at Daytona, and he's been able to kind of run whatever, do his thing for the last couple of weeks and maintain his points lead. And if you can maximize points like that, it is a huge advantage. And then when you look at some of these other drivers that haven't had good finishes, haven't had good starts of the year, I think it stands out even more. Hocevar getting cleaned out by Custer. Custer is one of the few people I think that doesn't really care. And that's probably part of the problem there for Hocevar. I mean, Stenhouse, I don't think he ever really paid him back after he got wrecked twice by Hocevar. But it's interesting. We'll see. I mean, I also look at, what with Zilich, with Suarez getting into him, like you said, former teammate, former driver of that car, then he didn't even try to make that corner, and Eric Jones got into him. It was the same kind of. It seems like it's funny, even like when I drive in the sim where I try to go and I take it easier and going into the first turn because I kind of want to make it through, but then somebody always usually runs me over, and I'm like, well, that's just really fucking dumb, but these guys are paid millions of dollars and they do the same thing, so I guess it's just what it is. But I mean, you could go on YouTube and see some of these content people that put their stuff out there, like Landon Uffman, and he talks about how people drive at late model races. So if it's happening there, it's happening at similar levels, and it keeps on rising up into the Cup Series, and yeah, that's what you get. But one thing that we know for sure is that kind of excellence that Tyler Reddick is showing is something that is hard. I mean, if you're not, you have to go out there and beat them because they're not trying to beat themselves. It's fundamental there. So, as Josh mentioned, 70-point lead for Reddick over Bubba Wallace, 72 on Elliott. There's only 4 drivers. Blaney is 4th that has 100 points through 3 races or more. Shane Van Gisbergen is actually 5th in points right now. Gained 11 spots with his finish on Sunday. Tied with Logano. Suarez in 7th. Allmendinger, McDowell, Hocevar, your top 10. In terms of cutoff, Ryan Preece is 118 points behind Tyler Reddick. So that's just one number. And then we go further from there. There are no Gibbs cars. The closest Gibbs car to the playoff after 3 races is Keebler in 17th, 3 points behind Preece. In Hamlin is 23rd, Bell is 24th, and Briscoe's 27th after he had another 38th place finish or whatever. Second 38th place finish he's had this year or whatever after Daytona, after the early wreck there. And then Alex Bowman had to get out of his car. He is at 23 total points. So he's 45 points out of the cutoff in 36th and last of all the drivers, of the regular drivers that have run every race. Zilich moved up a few spots, actually, even with all the carnage that happened to him. The likes of Cindric, Ware, and Eric Jones all fell back a bunch. But yeah, I mean, you look at those points gaps, and I mean, it's going to be focus, I think, starting this coming week is really going to be on, there's going to be more efforting on the qualifying and trying to maintain track position. Vegas is going to be an interesting race in terms of how it lands for a lot of these teams on the 1.5 mile racetracks, which are the bread and butter of the series, and what that'll mean. And of course, with both of those race tracks will be in the chase as well. So something that we have to also keep in mind. So let us move forward to the O'Reilly series. That race, a little bit of drama there, but in the end, Shane Van Gisbergen gets a victory at CoTA. Connor Zilich getting used up by Corey Day, and then being brought up on I don't know how many different shows on Dirty Mo Media this week. SVG, your winner. Hank Hill won another stage, finished second. Sammy Smith third. Jesse Love fourth. Got cleaned out by Kyle Busch on Sunday. Corey Day ended up fifth. Brent Cruz in his debut finished sixth. Williams Sawalich seventh. Allgaier was eighth. Ross Chastain ninth. Brennan Poole at the top 10. After that, Sam Mayer won a stage, finished second in stage 2, and finished finished second in stage 1 and won stage 2. Buckshot Jones was 15th. Mayer was 14th. Ryan Sieg 16th. Carson Kvapil driving the number 91. Took stage points, finished 19th. I mentioned Zilich, he finished 21st. Rajah Caruth finished 31st. And Austin Green finished 33rd. And Tyler Gonzalez, Josh Williams failed to qualify. Wow, that's pretty brutal. And you consider Austin J. Hill, well, that's probably because they had the points. And then the Cope team also had points. Yeah, that's a waste. But, yeah, so, I mean, the race really was between Zilich and SVG, and there was, but in the end, for Junior Motorsports, at least they came out with the victory, and they got 2 of the top 3, and they had 3 in the top 8. But I think they probably wanted more from that. But for Shane Van Gisbergen, at least he got that victory at CoTA that he's been chasing for a while.
Yeah, for SVG, I mean, he's been, chasing victory at CoTA for a while, and obviously didn't win the Cup Series, but was able to win here on the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series here for JRM, so, not surprising, really, that he won here, and like you said, it was a battle with him and Connor Zilich there. Obviously, they were the two guys that had led laps throughout the entire race. SVG had 31 laps led. Connor Zilich had 13 laps there, and it could have been interesting a little bit more if Zilich didn't have the issue where he got spun out by Corey Day there late in the going. So for Corey Day, obviously he's had a couple of incidents with JRM cars the first 3 races of the year, Daytona, Atlanta, and now at CoTA here. So apparently he's had a talking to from Mr. Hendrick there. So we'll see how that plays out there. I think it's probably like don't crash cars that I co-own also. So something like that. So we'll see how that plays out. I mean, he's still obviously very raw there for Corey Day with mostly sprint car experience there for him. So but still finished 5th, and he's had a good start results wise to the season there. But for a guy like Connor Zilich, who's just there for getting a win, right? Obviously he was upset, after the race, and he was trying to have a good weekend, trying to win there and have a good result in the Cup Series, and neither of those ones went well for him there. So, yeah, I mean, it was a fairly interesting race from that regard for those two guys. And obviously, yeah, like you mentioned with the point standings there, I mean, Austin Hill, second place here in the race on Saturday, and now has 28-point lead over his teammate Jesse Love there. So, not quite as dominant as Tyler Reddick in the Cup Series there, but obviously still has a pretty good point lead here to start off the year. So, yeah, he's obviously the point leader right now. And then, you have Jesse Love, of course, not a surprise there. Allgaier up there in third. So, yeah, we'll see how this. I think this is going to be a little bit more with the Xfinity Series. I don't think it's going to be as clear as who the favorites will be. I think there will be a handful of guys here, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 guys that are really, really good in this series and have a potential shot at winning the title here. And obviously, yeah, 3 out of those guys are JRM cars if you go back to 6, with Raja and Carson Kvapil in 5th and 6th in points there. So, yeah, we'll see how this plays out here. But, yeah, not a surprise SVG won on Saturday here. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how they do, I guess, at Phoenix, and doubleheader there with IndyCar next weekend. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they'll have to deal with the tire, with the different tire rubber. That might affect the racing a little bit there, and qualifying and all. But we'll see how that all goes. Hill, 28-point lead. He did get the maximum amount of points at Daytona with 75 there, so he's been able to basically maintain just based on that alone. Jesse Love is 28 points back. Allgaier's 39 points back in third. Creed, of course, also has a win. He's 48 back. Kvapil, Caruso, Smith. So all the JRM cars are in the top 7. Corey Day is 8th, tied with Sammy Smith. Parker Etzloff still in the top 10. Sam Mayer in 10th. Bruckshot Jones, and then Brennan Poole currently on the cutoff, 1 point ahead of Taylor Gray. William Sawalch right there, going to a track at Phoenix, which Gibbs has been really dominant at over the years. Staropoli there, up there, 10 points out of the cutoff. And then it kind of gets a little sketchy after that for some of these other drivers early on in the season that have hopes or thoughts of maybe wanting to make this playoff. Brent Cruz missed 2 races, so he's at a deficit, but is 28th in points currently with 31, so he is 39 points back of the cutoff, so not insurmountable, but he's going to have to be very consistent as he goes here with with less races to go and make up that time there. For likes of Harrison Burton's had a brutal start to the year. So is Jeremy Clements. Those 2 guys have already been passed by Brent Cruz there, and then Austin Green's up there, but he's only got a couple points more. So we'll see how it goes this week at the first regular oval race that they have here at Phoenix. The one difference for the NASCAR's top 3 series was the truck series at St. Petersburg. The only Bulls green flag 150, whatever the hell that is, that they ended up having rain during practice, and then they couldn't practice because they only had 2 sets of rain tires for every truck. So they stopped, didn't have practice, they canceled practice and then canceled qualifying. So they lined them up by the rule book. But in the end, Layne Riggs started 28th and came all the way up to win stage 2, led the most laps and won his first race of 2026 to join his teammate Chandler Smith as a winner so far this year. Ford swept the top 4 positions. Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, Chandler Smith were your top 4. Caden Honeycutt in 5th from 19th. Ty Majeski from 22nd finished second. Landon Lewis, driving for Nice, finished 6th. Andres Perez de Lara, 7th. Daniel Hemrick from 34th to 8th. Colin Brown driving the free agent Ram was 9th. Jimmy Hinch, a.k.a. James Hinchcliffe, finished 10th. Got in a little bit of argy-bargy. Got some contact from Dario Franchitti earlier in the race, but was still able to finish in top 10. Ben Mayer, who had shown pace, had to start next to last, finished 11th. Connor Mozak started on pole in the number 7 Spire truck, finished 13th. Some other people here. Grant Enfinger got stage points, finished 22nd. Ruggiero was the first truck one lap down and 25th. Dario Franchitti had transmission or some other mechanical issues, finished 27th. And then Tyler Ankrum finished 31st. Wesley Slimp's 62 truck had issues with getting the thing turned back over and then wasn't able to run the rest of the day there. So, yeah, I mean, Layne Riggs, it was Ben Rhodes got up there early in the race, made some passes, and was able to lead a good amount of the early part of the race. The 16, yeah, Justin Haley had a stalled truck, and that was an early caution. Then there was a wreck that was the 19, the 91, and the 5. So yeah, Adam Andretti, what's it called? Hemrick, and then Eckes. And then stage break, then there was a stall for Derek White, and then a stall for, or another 2 stalls for Derek White. Okay. And they parked him there. So, yeah, I mean, in the end, the race was really between Ben Rhodes, I think the 2 Ford teams there in Thor Sport and Front Row. But in the end, for Front Row, they get their second victory of the year. Layne Riggs gets his first victory of the season and gets, after what has been a rough start to the season with the 2 super speedway races, he goes out there and makes up a bunch of points and puts himself right back in the discussion as one of the title favorites.
Yeah, great weekend for Layne Riggs there. And then, first of all, I mean, I was at that race on Saturday, so yeah, it was a good time at the truck race there. Great crowd. Most of the seats were in the grandstands, at least, were packed and everything. So great crowd that came out for the truck race there. And most, which is funny because after the truck race ended, most of the people had left, and there's still a good amount for IndyCar qualifying and all that. But it was clear the crowd was a good amount of them were there for the truck race as well. So it was a great day to hang out at St. Pete and watch the first ever street race for the Truck Series, of course. But yeah, Layne Riggs. We made these picks almost a week in advance, man, and somehow picking Riggs right out of a hat, basically, and said he was going to win, and he did. So, it's just crazy and everything. But they had a good truck throughout the race, and obviously they won stage 2, and stage 3 had a good battle between him and Chandler Smith there throughout that race, and he was able to pull out the victory over Ty Majeski there. So it was an interesting race to kind of follow along at the track. I mean, I moved around I started out in the grandstands on the front stretch, and then moved around through Pioneer Park there through that section, and saw the other side of turn 1 there, saw that section, saw turn 10, of course, hung out there for a little bit, then tried to make my way back to the front stretch for the end, of course. But it was a pretty fun race to be at and everything. That first incident there with James Hinchcliffe and Dario Franchitti, thought that was really interesting seeing that happen, because Dario Franchitti looked like he didn't even have really have position on James Hinchcliffe, but he kind of sent it in there and kind of just bodied him out of the way there in turn 1, and then the first caution came out there. So it was a kind of an interesting bit there. And then Dario was up there for a good amount of the race, top 10, top 5. Then I guess had some issues with his truck, and ended up in 27th there. So yeah, great comeback for Dario Franchitti, of course, in the Truck Series at a track that he knows pretty well from his IndyCar days at St. Pete. So yeah, great run for him overall there. Ben Rhodes was solid, led the first half of the race. Thought he was going to be a contender there, and then of course, after stage 2, Layne Riggs battling it out with Chandler Smith, like I said there. So yeah, it was interesting. And then James Hinchcliffe, of course, was kind of up and down throughout the day, throughout the field, but he managed to come back and get 10th there. So obviously, been wanting to see guys like him, IndyCar guys, come out and make his run here in the Truck Series, and yeah, great run for him. Which is with this doubleheader deal, I think hopefully they can come back next year and do this again. So hopefully leads to more collaboration there. But yeah, and Colin Brown, of course, making a truck start for the first time in long time, almost the same amount of time as Dario Franchitti in NASCAR, of course. But he had a good run as well, finishing 9th. So yeah, it was a pretty good day overall. Truck Series, took lots of pictures between that and IndyCar qualifying and practice and all that stuff. So post those later as soon as I get those all edited and all that stuff. But yeah, it was good day to be out at the track. Of course, got a little sunburnt there, but yeah, hopefully Truck Series can come back next year and they make this kind of a regular thing. Because I enjoy having the Truck Series be somewhat different than the O'Reilly Auto Parts and the Cup Series with the tracks that they race on, and it's good to see them out there as part of the lead up into the main event with the IndyCar on Sunday there at St. Pete. So hopefully they can do that again next year. But yeah, Layne Riggs winning a road course race, who'd have thunk that would have happened. So yeah, now he's kind of recovered from his first 2 races here, and has a shot to get back in it for the regular season title.
Yeah, he said that he thanked Joey Hand, who's the big Ford road racing guy in terms of their sports car program. I think he's involved with the whatever the LMP deal, I believe, but he's definitely involved with the Ford racing and develop of all the road racing aspect. Has run the new Cup car and he's helped these guys. So I mean, Joey Hand is he's a great driver. So if you're going to listen to somebody, he ain't a bad one to listen to. So it definitely seemed to help because top 4 were Fords, and Toyota has a lot of support too, and you can see that in the results with like Hayden Honeycutt, another one who you wouldn't think of as a road racer. Hemrick, who's never been good on road courses, was able to make something happen there. But I mean, for Riggs, though, it's a big points day, as you mentioned, and so we'll get into those here. Their next race will be at Darlington in a couple weeks' time, so get to them at that. Chandler Smith has a 34-point lead on Ben Rhodes, 50 points on Ty Majeski, 54 on Gio Ruggiero, and Layne Riggs moves up from 23rd to 5th with his win, and a stage win there. Caden Honeycutt is in 6th, Andres Perez de Lara, Stu Ball, Christian Eckes, and then Justin Haley round out your top 10 from Friesen all the way down to Jake Garcia in 14th is 12 points. So there's a nice cluster there. The cluster of Majeski all the way to Andres Perez is 17 points from 2nd to 7th, but then Stuart Friesen, Eckes, Haley, Queen, Ankrum, Dye, and Garcia. So that includes the 3 Colleague Rams. That includes a couple of trucks from McAnally, and then you have Jake Garcia in there from Doorsport. Cole Butcher's right there with him too. And Landon Lewis, he had a great run. He only run his first race of the season. I don't know how many races. I think he's going to run the majority of the races in that 45, I believe. Though similar to Brent Cruz, he's going to be able to make up some points there. He had a good run, so we'll see how that all works out there. Hemrick moves up to 19th. in terms of Enfinger is currently 23rd and, like 67 points. So yeah, Hamrick is 21 points behind the cutoff at the moment. Enfinger is 26 back. So those are just two guys that we have to look at in terms of their situation. Dawson Sutton's buried. He's been really bad shape. But yeah, I mean, Enfinger's the third in terms of the number of drivers that have run every race. He is third from last there. So really bad start to the year for him, and also for Hemrick, and to a lesser extent, even I would say Eckes, but Eckes is ninth in points, so he's okay at least for now. We'll see how Colleague does as we move forward. All right, so let us go from that to we will move on to Formula One. So yeah, new cars, new engine formula, power units with a 50-50 split of the combustion engine and electric power, wings that are active wings, so that they basically open up on the straightaways, and they are, so that instead of having DRS, there's their version of push to pass is in there. So that's a new aspect with the cars. I forget what they called it in Formula, and they came up with names for all this crap. But I mean, the stories, they have the new, all these cars are, yeah. So, well, you know what? It works out. So 12 rule changes you need to know in 2026. There you go. Chris Medland. Thanks, Chris Medland. Smaller cars, narrower cars, which is nice. They're lighter. The new aero, new power units, introduction of advanced sustainable fuels. Okay, overtake mode. So that's basically the push to pass. Straight mode with the active aero, which opens the wings. In Ferrari's case, they're able to flip the wing over. The rear wing boost, the boost button. So overtaking or defensive, overtake, recharge. Then where new track zones or changes above me, and you'll see different marker boards around each track compared to previous season. Where the DRS board became familiar, will be often now board marked SM straight mode that defines where a zone starts or a car can reduce drag. Shorter zones for race control deems there to be low grip conditions. All right. Tweak to the start procedure. So yeah, I mean, that was something that we saw where Lewis started way in the middle of the pack or in the middle of the field, and was able to pass everybody based on how the new start procedure worked there. And then the qualifying adjustments are mainly because of Cadillac, the new Andretti Cadillac team being on the grid, having Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez on the grid driving again. New team with 3 different bases, Indianapolis, and then one in England, and then I forget where the other one is, but they're in there, and they seem to have a solid enough race car. They have the Ferrari power unit for the next couple of years. They have a decent enough car. I don't know where they're going to be. Aston Martin's on the back foot with a litany of issues, packaging issues of the car, issues with the power unit, but then also with the way that the car is set up so that they're not able to maximize laps and lap time. So there's a bunch of things going on. Adrian Newey and running the team, but same issues that Fernando Alonso had at McLaren more than a decade ago when Honda came back that time, seemed to be rearing their head again. But then you had Adrian Newey going and being Adrian Newey, and that probably didn't help their cause. Bigger budget cap. Yeah, so that's the other one. But yeah, I mean, those are just some of the changes in terms of drivers. There's again drivers. Isaac Hadjar moves to Red Bull to be Fischlip's teammate, and Arvin Lindblad, he's part Indian guy, so got to root for him. He's moved over to Toro Rosso. They got rid of Yuki Tsunoda. He's a test and reserve driver. And then, what is it? Other than that, those are the only driver changes this year. In terms of teams, Alpine is now they are a customer of Mercedes now instead of being their own power unit manufacturer. Aston Martin, as mentioned, has Honda. Haas has a connection and primary sponsorship from Toyota now. So something we'll have to look at as years go on. Cadillac, as I mentioned, has a Ferrari power unit, but eventually will have their own. What was the Sauber Formula One team is now Audi. Both Red Fool and Racing Bulls, Toro Rossos, I like to call them, are now Ford powered. I mean, it's a Red Bull powertrain with the Ford power unit. That seems to be a fight that comes up every single time there's any type of media where Cadillac accuses Ford of just a badging exercise and not actually being involved in wanting to make an actual power unit. And then, I mean, those are the changes there. I mean, testing, we don't really know for sure. I think for George Russell and Mercedes seem to have a lot of pace and a lot of time. We're able to do a lot of work. The McLaren seems solid enough as well. Red Bull had pace at times with Verstappen, but they did have some reliability things. And then Ferrari was really pretty reliable. Haas was able to benefit from that. Lewis seems happy with the car. Charles Leclerc is very happy, it seems, with the car. So too early to tell, I would say, but and I think it's going to be evolving after these first couple of races, these flyaway races. And then now with the notion that the schedule is going to change because of the unrest in the Middle East, that could totally kind of put a flex or a mess with the whole entire game there. But I think it's just nicer to have a new formula. The formula that they just had was for the last few years has not been great. The racing has been poor, and honestly, I think they might have missed the boat in terms of the power unit, but there are other things that seem to be appealing. Also, taking the broadcast off of a cable channel and then putting it on a streaming service is something that I don't think is the greatest move, but especially when you're trying to grow a series, and when you have the two main series in America are more or less readily available on network TV or on cable, like regular cable, versus what Formula One's doing now. But I mean, it's new and it's different, so it's an opportunity. And after what Lewis has gone through the last few years as a Lewis fan, I'm looking forward to it. And then, we'll see what Williams, they had to make up for lost time after missing the first shakedown test, but they seem to be okay. But we'll see how okay they are come Melbourne. And maybe with some of this stuff going on in our world, it might give an opportunity to some of these teams that might be a little bit off or might be behind to maybe make some adjustments and try to make a gain because they're able to have the time. But what are your thoughts, Josh, on what we can expect here on Formula One 2026?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch this first race here this weekend at Melbourne and see who has done their homework, I guess, in terms of all the off-season testing and preseason testing and all that. We've seen some of the aero tricks, like with Ferrari, what they're doing with the wing that they had that seems to turn over. If that's even actually going to be a thing, or if that's just a trick that they've done for testing. I'm interested to see how Cadillac will do in their first race, in their first season overall. Because it seems like, they've definitely put in a lot of hype and stuff into their, marketing and all that, obviously to get interest. But come race day, are they going to be in the back of the field, or are they going to actually compete? Potentially even compete for points. I mean, I don't think that's on the table, but certainly see if that could happen. Remember, go back to 2016 when Haas debuted as their first American team in Formula 1 in 30 years. Remember, they finished in sixth place in Melbourne with Romain Grosjean. So that's definitely possible if things play out right for them there. But I think with the new regulations, especially with the engines, 50% from the power unit and then 50% from the hybrid unit on there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how does that play into driver strategy, because I think there's gonna be a lot of conserving there throughout a lap, and maximizing the potential for both engines there. We've kind of seen Max talk about it a little bit as well, complaining about the the style of racing that this might produce. I think even like Lewis had alluded to it, but maybe his mind changed on that. Maybe the car is better for Lewis or whatever. And I think Alonso had talked about it as well. So, but then there are other guys like obviously Landers, the champion, of course, had said that he's had no issues with the car or anything like that. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the racing quality plays out. Obviously, like we said, the last couple of years with the ground effect aero package that they had didn't really work for them and led to not as much overtaking as what maybe they had thought would happen with that. Now they've completely kind of changed everything here with this new regulations formula here. So we'll see how it plays out. I think also with the engine manufacturers as well. Now we've got new interest obviously with Ford, Cadillac in the next couple of years as a team and engine manufacturer. Honda is back officially as a independent manufacturer rather than what they had with Red Bull. And all the different teams that are coming about with all the changes that they've implemented as well. I think the fuel thing is also kind of an interesting thing there with the fuel, synthetic fuel that they've come up with here. So, fueling, obviously, from a refueling standpoint, you don't see fuel strategy here in America with what we see in IndyCar and NASCAR, but certainly in the first couple of races with, this new synthetic fuel could be interesting to see how that plays out with how the fueling, interacts in racing conditions, their first official race. So we'll see how that turns out. And like you said, you mentioned the, unrest here in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia in that part of the world. Would that affect that race? And obviously, if it does, then what does F1 decide to do? Do they just remove the race entirely from the calendar, or do they try to replace it? Similar to what we had in COVID in 2020, and I guess in 2021 as well. Do they try to find a replacement race of some kind to put in there to fill that gap in the calendar if it comes to it? So I'm sure there are plenty of other tracks that. Circuits that could host a race in that time frame, but it would obviously the decision would have to be made quickly to allow for all the logistics and all of that to go smoothly enough for that time frame. So I guess that's just a matter of time, and we'll see what they decide to do. But I'm curious on that end, and then I guess we'll see how the racing plays out on track. If leads to more parity, I guess, or just more side by side action, makes it more interesting. I think all the changes would be better in that perspective. And then you mentioned the streaming thing as well, which I'm not a big fan of it either. I mean, I think if you're trying to grow the series in the U.S., I mean, I think the answer would be to put it on what's most available, which would be like what ESPN had as far as being on cable or being on network television, right? And obviously most of NASCAR is available via cable and network TV. IndyCars, all the races are on network TV on Fox. So when you're competing with those series in the US, and you're trying to obviously with all these American companies coming in, you're trying to grow the series, you would think to still continue that, or even try to put it on the best available path of least resistance to get people interested in Formula One here in America. And we talked about it before with ESPN. Like, it's easy to put on ESPN for anything because it's all usually the default sports channel on cable to go to. So there's that aspect of it. Whereas Apple has whatever price it is, $9.99 a month or whatever, and people in the streaming era, you pick and choose what you want, and a lot of people do have Apple TV, but is it enough to supplant the cable audience that you had with ESPN there? That was obviously available in every single cable package here, and most places you can get ESPN really easily, which even then ESPN themselves are going to some kind of streaming angle as well with some of the other sports that they carry. But I think it's also telling, and I think we've mentioned it before, with Apple TV going to streaming here with Formula One, the other sports that they stream, I think they stream the MLB, some of the games, and the NHL, and I think it's been said that they haven't released the streaming ratings for that and I think it's kind of implied that they know the numbers aren't actually that good, so they're not bothering to even release those numbers for those sports. But we'll see how many people decide to buy into Apple TV or go there out just because of F1, right? I mean, I had Apple TV at one point for some of the shows that they've had, so then I cancel my subscription once I finish watching those shows, and when they come back, then I'll resubscribe. So I don't think, though, I'm gonna subscribe to them just for Formula One, because then that'd be a long-term yearly commitment or whatever there and everything. But because I genuinely don't believe that's like a good path to have as to put everything on streaming. And we talk about it, with Amazon and NASCAR and everything, but I also had Amazon for other things, and that just happened to be a bonus, right? I haven't bought into HBO Max to watch the in-cars, which I think, with the in-car stuff there, that's valuable too, especially as Fox misses like half the action there in NASCAR. But going back to F1, like, why put it on Apple TV? And seems like they are kind of chasing the bag here. And there's an interesting caveat to that, is that Netflix, so I guess Drive to Survive is moving to Apple on there, and as a partnership with Netflix, they're going to broadcast the Apple broadcast on Netflix. So a bit of redundancy on there. But most people have, or a lot of people have Netflix still. So I guess the Canadian Grand Prix will be rebroadcasting on Netflix alongside Apple TV, so there'll be a little bit of exposure there, which I did find interesting, because that is the race on Memorial Day weekend, so they are trying to capture some of that audience there, or trying to figure out a way to maximize the potential for that audience on there. So we'll see how that, I guess, how that goes, but we'll kind of showing their arrogance there with trying to capitalize on the money side, as they try to capitalize on all the fans that have been latching on to F1 the last 5 or 6 years in the streaming era with Drive to Survive and all that stuff. So we'll see if it works out for them with this deal, but it's definitely kind of putting a premium on watching F1 here in the States. So there'll be ways to get around it: illegal streaming, going to the bar or whatever to watch it and all that, or even like friends or whatever partnering together to watch Apple TV and sharing the subscription in a way, which I don't know how their restrictions are, like, because there are other series or other networks that have their restrictions. So, but there'll be ways people that want to watch racing will, and are genuinely interested in it, will figure out a way to watch. So, it's not that big of a deal, but it's certainly, individually, I mean, people will have their different viewpoints on that. So, yeah, but otherwise, excited to see how the racing plays out. Is starting this weekend here in Australia.
Yeah, it's something that we're gonna definitely see. I mean, I've been debating it. They said that they have a 1 month free if you're part of the F1 Unlocked deal there, so there's that option. But I don't know. I have to see how funds are tight. I'm already paying for YouTube TV, pay for other subscriptions, so. I mean, Peacock sucks so bad, I could probably just cancel that and go and swap that out. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. I think the one thing I'm waiting for is kind of, wanting to see what Lewis has. And if it is good, then it's like, well, I guess I have to watch it because I don't want to miss it. If he's still, where he's been the last few years, and I guess I'll figure out a way around it, but we'll see what happens. Definitely intriguing, a lot of intrigue going on with this season, new cars, a lot of new teams and all that stuff. So it's something that we're going to end up having to examine more in detail. Alrighty, so also have NHRA Gator at Gainesville here to start the roundup. So yeah, first of all, Supercross was at Daytona to start bike week last week, and in the 250 East, Seth Hammaker got the whole shot and ended up winning for Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki over Cole Davies, Pierce Brown, who was coming into the race as the points leader, Joe Shimoda's fourth, Daxton Bennick rounding out your top five, Cody Schuck, Nate Thrasher, Cullen Park, Devin Simonson, and Jalik Swoll rounding out your top 10. In the 450 main event, it was Eli Tomac getting his 8th win at Daytona, breaking a record there, and then going and busting his tooth. Celebrating with this trophy, so that was pretty brutal. On the same weekend as the Pete Weber Open, and then playing out Who Do You Think You Are, I Am, Eli Tomac did his version of it, busted himself up in the process. Hunter Lawrence finished second, so didn't lose too much ground there. Ken Roxon was third, Cooper Webb fourth, Joey Savacci with the top 5, been consistent all year, riding the quad lock Honda. Aaron Plessinger, Garrett Marchbanks, 7th. Shane McElrath, the other quad lock Honda, was 8th. Justin Hill, and then Malcolm Stewart was rounded out the top 10. Trying to look for some of these other guys. Ferrandis ended up dead last, crashed there. Jordan Smith made the main. The Betas not having issues or injuries or whatever going on there. Trying to look at who else you have there. Craig has another close, so they had a third. Okay. All right. So then the points as they head to Indianapolis this coming weekend. 250 East, Pierce Brown has a 2-point lead on Seth Hammaker. 5-point lead on Joe Shimoda. Cole Davies is 4th, 6 points back, and Daxton Bennick is 8 points back in 5th after 2 rounds in the East Championship. And the 450 Supercross Championship, look at Anna Storm, yeah. Hunter Lawrence has a 1-point lead on Eli Tomac after Eli Tomac got his 4th win of the season. The only difference is that 12th place finish that Eli had at Glendale. That's the difference there. Ken Roxon is 20 points back, tied with Cooper Webb for 3rd. Both of them have won one main this year. Chase Sexton way back, 50 points or 49 points back, tied with Justin Cooper. Sexton didn't race at Daytona. Must have had crashed there. Joey Savacci in 7th, only 10 points behind Cooper. Plessinger, Ferrandis, Jason Anderson had issues also at Daytona. Wasn't able to race. So now he's on only 9 points ahead of Malcolm Stewart, 10 ahead of Justin Hill. So that's that for Supercross. We'll move on to Indy next. Was at St. Petersburg last week for their season opener. A lot of new faces, some guys back in the series as well. But Nikita Johnson gets the win for the Cape Motorsports ECR team. Started on the outside of the front row, got the lead on the start, and led every lap. Max Taylor for Andretti Global was second. Tomek Kosharik for HMD was third. Andretti's got 3 of the top 5 there. Seb Murray, Lockie Hughes, Miles Rowe finished 6th. Josh Pearson. So all the Andretti cars are in the top 7. Salvador D'Alba, Juan Manuel Correa, and Alessandro Del Tullio. So really not that much movement in the top 10, just little moves in terms of place swapping. And for look at some of the, James Rose, Coolin, who was here last season. The Ganassi cars had issues. Enzo Fittipaldi ended up finishing 17th. Max Garcia, coming in from 2 consecutive championships, finished 12th in his first Indy Next race. So we will see how it goes. And then their next race will be at Arlington, so they won't race at Phoenix. They'll run 2 races at Barber, 2 races at the Indy Road Course, then Detroit Grand Prix. They'll race at Gateway for 1 oval race. They'll run 3 oval races later in the year. They'll run Gateway, they'll run Nashville, and they'll run the Milwaukee Mile. But they run a bunch of double headers, the permanent road courses. So they'll run at Barber twice, Indy Road Course twice, Mid-Ohio, and at Laguna Seca to end the year. The MotoGP started their year. Looked like Marc Marquez, trying to defend his title. In MotoGP, the Ducati seemed to have pace, but really, in the end, it was Marco Bezzecchi, Aprilia were on point during the whole entire weekend there, and were able to take advantage of the issues that some of the Ducatis had. Bezzecchi gets the win by 5.54, 3 seconds over Pedro Acosta on the KTM. Aprilia's finished 4 out of the top 5. Raul Fernandez was 3rd in the Trackhouse bike, then Jorge Martin on the factory Aprilia. Ayagura was 5th for Trackhouse. Best Ducati was Fabio Di Gianantonio in 6th. Brad Binder, KTM 7th. Morbidelli 8th. Pecco Bagnaia was 9th, and Luca Marini on a Honda. The first of the Hondas was 10th there. Fabio Quartararo finished 14th. His teammate Alex Rins was 15th. Toprak Rasgadlioku and his teammate Jack Miller were outside of the points. Joan Mir had issues along with Alex Marquez, and of course Marc Marquez had tire issues and fell out of the race. But so that was the race there for MotoGP. In Moto2, Holgado gets the win, and trying to see, I don't see, Joe Roberts was just outside the points. Very close grouping there, so the fact is he had a chance to possibly make the points, but he didn't. Sene is another one. I think he fell out. A couple of guys fell out on lap 1. Piqueras, the then Aji, and then Alonso. A few guys there. Arbolino was only 20th, so people there to look for as we go. And then Wheelace, trying to see those names from Moto 3. O'Gorman, yeah. Rams are up there. Moodley had issues. Bertelli, yeah, Buchanan, yeah, all these guys that run in Red Bull Juniors, the KTM Juniors, Eddie O'Shea, yeah, so, yeah, there. So, all right, so that was MotoGP. Their next race will be in Brazil a few weeks from now. Then they'll race at CoTA for the U.S. Grand Prix. The World Endurance Championship opener has been canceled, at least, or rescheduled to later in the year. They're saying they're going to run at Imola to start the year instead of running at Qatar, which was their originally scheduled race there. Try to go over to Supercars. So yeah, Supercars will be at Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. Points going into this weekend's event. Brock Feeney leads the points, or is tied in points with Matt Payne, but he has 2 wins and a pole. Cam Waters is third. Anton De Pasquale is fourth. Best of the Chevys, 1 win, 1 pole. Brody Kostecki fifth. Ryan Wood, the best of the Toyotas, in sixth. Then Jack LeBrock, David Reynolds, Thomas Randall, and Cam Hill. James Golding got a pole at Sydney Motorsports Park a few weeks ago. So we'll see how that all goes for this weekend at the Australian Grand Prix. Then NHRA will be back to start their season, their 75th season of the NHRA at the Gator Nationals. We'll be doing a lot of stuff in terms of the legends and what is it? Mark Powick to debut new Dodge Charger drag pack. Trick Tools doubles down on pulling TK Mosen Award. NHR Chase Van Zandt. Oh, okay. So Van Zandt next level. White Alligator Racing. Awesome. He's joined Jerry Savoy. Okay. It's pretty cool. Ryan Ayler, Braden Davis. Oh, that's interesting. So that's Buell as Davis versus Big Cubic Inch V Twin Ride. Okay. So they'll be on a couple of Buells. All right. So that's nice. In terms of, I'll try to go through. I wanted to go and look at the entry list, but it'll probably take too long. Yeah, Gator Nationals, schedule event map, meet your favorite drivers, blah, blah, blah. Full event schedule, Nitro, Rostock Motorcycles over there. Oh, you have to really, so you really have to go and sit there and walk if you really want to get around at Gainesville to go and see some of these series and some of these riders or drivers. But I wanted to, no, of course they don't have the entry, so we'll go over that and see who does what in the race this weekend, and talk about it more next week on episode 306 of the GSP. Yeah, let's go to Formula One. Start the year. So Formula 2, and Formula 2 is actually at Australia, and Formula 3. Oh, so there you go. So before I go to that, so let's go to, that's my fault. I didn't think Formula 2 and Formula 3 were there, so that's my fault. Teams and drivers, Campos, Theo Nile, and Ugo Chuku from the U.S. He's with Campos in F3 now. Left McLaren's junior program. Patrick Husenroder, okay, Australian guy. Right end, Noah Stromstead, Freddie Slater from England, Matteo De Palo from Italy, MP Motorsports, Matteo Colagni with fucked up teeth. He's from Argentina. Tuukka Tappinen. Yeah, he looks Finnish. Then Alessandro Giusti, another one that's kind of got, yeah. And then ART is Taito Kato, a Honda junior driver. Giadis, Maciej Giadis, with a Polish with a interesting spelling, and then Kanado Lei, so 2 Japanese drivers for ART this year. Hayu Yamakoshi for Van Amersfoort. Enzo Delaney, a French driver. That's an interesting look. Bruno Del Pino, Spanish driver. Don't even know most of these MFers. A few of them are from last year, but Pedro Claro from Brazil. Brando Bador, so yeah, it's Luca Bador's son. And then Christian Ho from Singapore, wherever he is. Then Louis Sharp from New Zealand. James Wharton from Australia. And then Jose Garfias from Mexico. Then High Tech has Michael Shin from Korea. Fionn McLaughlin from Ireland. And then Jin Nakamura, so a bunch of Japanese drivers. This is a Toyota junior driver. 4 different Japanese drivers in Formula 2. That's pretty interesting. Brad Benavides, so actually 2 Americans on the grid this year. Then Yvonne David from Sri Lanka, so sort of brown guy there. All right. And then Fernando Barrichello, so we know that name. So that'll be an interesting team to look at. AIX Racing to keep an eye on. Then Nicola Lacourte, Nodvud, I'm not even going to try. That is a name. And then Gerard G, and Chinese guy. So a lot of Asian persuasion in Formula 3 this year. Formula 2, we will see the teams and drivers. Invicta has Rafael Camara, won the Formula 3 championship last year. And then Joshua Dirksen from Paraguay finished 9th last year in Formula 2. Then for High Tech is Ritomo Miata, the Japanese Toyota junior. And then his teammate will be Colton Herta. So, of course, we know what Colton's trying to do, reasons he's there, etc., etc. Noel Leon from Mexico for Campos. Last year ran Formula 3, limited races, and then he ran Formula 3 the year before and finished 10th in the series. Nicholas Soloff finished 2nd in Formula 3 last year, Bulgarian driver. So that's for Campos Racing. Lucas Oil Dams will have Dino Boganovic, Swedish driver, finished 7th in F2 last year, finished 6th in F3 the year before, the 2 years before that. And then Roman Blinsky from Poland finished 11th last year in Formula 3. Gabriele Mini from Italy finished 13th last year in Formula 2 after finished 2nd in Formula 3 the year before. So he's in for MP Motorsport. And Oliver Goeth finished the 15th in Formula 2 last year, 7th in Formula 3 the year before, 8th in Formula 3 in 2023. So yeah, that's MP Motorsport. Seb Montoya for Prema was 12th last year in Formula 2, 17th in Formula 3 and 24. Yeah. And then Mari Boya, Aston Martin Jr., finished 3rd in Formula 3 last year. So, yeah, that's a good driver pairing there. Martinus Stenshorn finished 5th in Formula 3 in 25. Then Alex Dunn finished 5th in Formula 2 last year. So he's somebody to look at, I would say, for one of the possible favorites and going into this seaon. Kushmini, the Indian driver, will be racing for ART this year. Coming off of, this is now his 4th year in Formula 2 after racing in Formula 3 1 year. Outside of the top 10 each year he's been in there. And Sonopol Interpuvasak comes in Formula 3 last year, was 7th. So we'll see how that goes for him. And then Emerson Fittipaldi, so grandson of course, Emerson Fittipaldi, now finished 11th in Euro Cup 3. Well, I guess he has a name. That's why he's there. Cyan Shields with hair that he looks like Weird Al Yankovic. So that is quite a look. Finished 24th in Formula 2 last year. Ran in Formula 3 the year before and finished 30th. And so AIX they're taking money. Nicholas Verone from Argentina. He's run sports cars. He ran GTD Pro, GTP, hypercars, Nicholas Verone. So he's coming from sports car background, trying to make it. 25 years old, so interesting there. And Rafael Villagomez, Formula 2 last year, was 14th. This is his 3rd year with Van Amersfoort racing in Formula 2. Has been with Van Amersfoort for 4 years. This is his 5th year, actually. He hasn't done much. So we'll see how that goes. And then Lawrence Van Hoopen, the Dutch driver, finished 12th in Formula 3 last year, 13th the year before that. And then John Bennett, British driver, finished 22nd in Formula 2 last year, finished 2nd in the GB3 Championship in 2024. So we'll see. This field doesn't seem all that strong. Definitely weaker than it has been in the past. So an opportunity is there if Colton can figure out these cars and stuff to possibly go out there and make something happen in this year in Formula 2. All right, so after that, we'll make our picks here. So okay. Let us see. Picks channel, Formula 1. I picked first, so Formula 1, Australian Grand Prix. Josh, you get first licks here. Who do you see as your pick for the win and podium? And I don't know what else you'd want to pick in terms of if you want to pick pole or any of that, but definitely the podium.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to say that Max Verstappen wins the opening Grand Prix here in Australia, and then podium, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris.
The podium, okay. I'm going to go with Woody Russell to win, with Charles Leclerc and Fish Lips rounding out the podium. So I will say that for Lewis, he'll qualify top 6. He'll finish in the top 6. It'll be a solid run. He'll get a good run to start the year. That's what I believe will take place there. All right, so then F2, F3 at Melbourne. So the Indy cars will be at Phoenix, of course. I'll go first with this one. They need some of these guys need momentum to bounce back after a rough start to the year. So I would say that would mean that Scott Dixon would go out there and get the job done here at Phoenix. He has before. So I will say that. So IndyCar Phoenix Grand Prix. Phil goes with Scott Dixon to win. And my wild card selection, the Good Ranchers to 50. My wild card will be Alexander Rossi because he had a good test, and the Ed Carpenter team makes their name at doing well at ovals, so figure that's an opportunity there. How about you, Josh?
I'm gonna go with Pato Award to win this weekend. And then my wild card, go with Romain Grosjean.
Interesting. Grosjean, who hasn't had much exposure to the ovals for the last few years, but does have the experience in the past. Did have a good run last week, of course, at St. Pete, so Pat O'Ward is one of the better oval racers on the circuit. So they have a very busy day on Friday. 2 practice sessions, one of them a highline practice, and then qualifying, so everything will be on FS2 there, and then the race will be on Fox. So there is that. And then, let's go to Cup and O'Reilly series. Will be there as well. So let us go with the GovX 200 O'Reilly series race, 40 cars for 38 spots. William Byron will be in the 88 for JRM this weekend, so it's different. Smithley back in the 0, Quapple back in the 1. Chandler Smith will be racing in the 5 for Hettinger Racing after they DNQ'd at Phoenix. The Balicki there, Brent Cruz running again there, continuing his season. Austin J. Hill driving the Barrett Cope 30. Rajah Caruth will be in the 32 for Jordan Anderson. Blake Lothian, whoever he is, will be in the 35 for Joey Gase. Nathan Bird, whoever he is, driving the Young's 42. Daniel Dye driving a second AM Racing Ford this weekend. He announced that a few weeks ago. Gase driving his own 55. Cram trying to make the race with Mike Harmon in 74. Josh Williams trying to make the show after missing the race last week for DGM. But so that means Josh, you get first dibs on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carson Quapple to finally get his first career victory here in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series here. So I'll go with him, and then wild card here, I'll go with Nick Sanchez.
Okay, so Josh goes Carson Quapple to win, and Nick Sanchez wild card. Phil is gonna go with Bruckshot Jones, which is crazy, but it's not, because he's good there. It's rare you can say that about certain places. There's very few places you could say that, but this is one of them, and it's a Gibbs track. And then my wild card choice will be Chandler Smith, because he's got good momentum. They're a team that wants to recover after a rough week last weekend. He's a solid enough driver. He's running the Xfinity series, so he has the capability to get them at least a top 20 finish, you'd think, if they can make the show. So that's something we will see. Cup Series at Phoenix. Let us get into the entry list for that. The Straight Talk Wireless 500. 37 for 40. I think Hank Hill's the only open car there is there. Other than that, it's the usual suspects. Tyler Reddick running a Jordan brand car this weekend to go for 4 in a row. What is it? Wendy's will be on Connor Zilich's car this week. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say Chase Briscoe is going to win. Because at some point this nonsense has to stop. Chase Briscoe wins at Phoenix for the second time in his career. I do think Gibbs is just going to go out there. I do feel like it's going to be, if it ain't Chase, I feel like Hamlin. Obviously, we know what happened last November. Bell, I feel like it's a weekend for Gibbs. It would continue the Toyota streak too. My wild card pick for this weekend, I mean, it's early in the season, so it's kind of wonky. You can kind of get crazy with it. I am going to say wild card for this weekend's race. You know what? Need the points. That would actually help me. 36, 18. Oh, Ross Chastain. Perfect.
Okay.
Both of them are outside anyway, so in theory, I mean, I could have just went double Gibbs here, and I could have went Hamlin or Bell, but I'm gonna go Ross Chastain. So, Josh, you get last licks here before you go into the sim segment. Who do you say will go out there? Can Tyler Reddick get 4 in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking back at the results the last couple of years, and there's not really a whole lot to suggest that Tyler Reddick or even 2311, like as an organization, could go out and win this race. But we've seen crazier things. I mean, the one thing that might suggest is because it's a Toyota track, especially the spring race, more so than the fall. Probably because of the championship, but in the past, Christopher Bell has won in the past here in the spring race. So yeah, I'm going to go with C Bell winning this race, this weekend. And then I guess for me, my wild card, I'll stay Toyota and I'll go with John Hunter Nemechek here, winning here this weekend. So, or not winning, but, being a wild card this weekend. So, yeah, be interesting to see if Tyler Reddick can pull off a 4th race in a row. Which if he wins 4 in a row, then I would pick him at Las Vegas in 2 weeks from now. So we'll see how that. But those two guys, and then followed up and go in the sim segment for me, I guess. iRacing Season 2 2026. About to be deployed here soon. Week 13, I think, is this week or next week here. News here for iRacing. New ranked series for week 13, 2026, season 1, as they perform the update. New ranked series here added for the following cars for ARCA Menards, late model stock, mini stock, sports car, BMW M2, Toyota GR86, GT4 cars, Formula cars, Formula 4, Super Formula Light, Indy NXT, Dirt Oval, Dirt Mini Stock, 410 Sprint Car, 358 Modified, Dirt Road, the FIA Cross Car, and Pro 2 Light. So, handful of, I guess, ranked racing here. So, week 13, a lot of people throw caution to the wind. So, it'll be interesting to see how more people going for ranked races there, how that plays out. Season 2 development blog, they released that. Big news here, new track, St. Petersburg, which they talked about at broadcast on Sunday for IndyCar. That'll be out soon. So, looking forward to running that. So I just kind of like running that track, or seeing that track, I guess, on TV and in person. So see if we can pull outside move like Scott McLaughlin did in turn 10 here. Sure, that'll be a lot easier said than done in real life, but it's certainly easier to do in iRacing than real life there for sure. They're updating Barber Motorsports Park. They've updated the facility to what it currently looks like right now. So that's a good update there for that track. Art refreshes for a couple of short tracks: Linear National Speedway, Langley Speedway, and USA International Speedway. Some, I think, curbing updates for Long Beach and Sebring and Red Bull Ring there. The NASCAR Cup Series Next Gen Camaro ZL1 is being released onto iRacing, so the updated next gen car for Chevy for this year. They're also releasing the Dodge Ram truck for NASCAR. So now you can race the Ram truck as they are now racing in real life in the Truck Series. And they're for new car, the touring car class, TCR class, Audi RS3 LMS Gen 2 debuting here in Season 2. That's the new cars for Season 2. Physics updates for some of the cars. TCR will be using dry and wet tires, have better refined handling, better real-world systems, better, I guess, accuracy and garage setup, drivetrain, power, physics, BOP, GTE class, getting a physics refresh for GTE, for Ferrari 488 GTE, BMW M8 GTE, and this Corvette C8 GTE cars. So there'll be more regulations and physics updates for that. New physics and tire overhauls for slick tires, wet tires, better chassis dynamics, and then updated balance of performance there for the tires. Dyno and 5-point post testing, 5-post shaker rig, better trackside adjustments for the garage area, simplified height adjustments, cleaner layout, and new tips for, I guess, helping you figure out what some of the garage settings means. They're adding the IMSA Vintage class, so that'll be the Audi 90 GTO, Nissan GTP ZXT on there, and they both have wet and dry tires on that as well. Lotus 49 physics update as well here. Getting the all-weather tires here for both dry and wet conditions. Suspension overhaul, authentic braking here. So, if you want to run throwback F1, early 60s, early 70s IndyCar type racing on there. Updates to the NASCAR Cup car for engine power and aerodynamics to reflect the rules package that they put in for this year, especially with the 750 horse power there. The O'Reilly car getting an update to the drafting model on there, Dallara, and then the Dallara IndyCar getting an update to the short track Indianapolis packages as well. Oval refresh here, refreshing the track behavior with rubber buildup there, adding AI, or adding improvements to the AI for simulated finishes, skipping qualifying, and refining driver logic to behave more human-like for the AI, adding updates to the user interface for the simulation, new profiles, tracking live telemetry, which has often been a third-party update for other programs there for iRacing to have live telemetry there. So now you'll have that in real time straight out of the box from iRacing. Some more UI updates, time trial averages, last X amount of lap average, how many tire compounds you've used, other things like that. So they're also adding a visual spotter. So if you're a single monitor user and you don't have the access to triples, there will be a new feature to help people on those single monitor setups to help with visual aid, since they'd be limited by the visibility of having 3 monitors. And I guess adding updates to the driving line if you use that. There's a lot of updates here. So fixing audio as well. Ghost car updates as well for time trials and testing. Lots of other things. So and they're eventually going to have a iRacing career mode here on there. So new updates for iRacing, of course. Be excited to get things like the NASCAR Ram truck and the St. Petersburg Grand Prix course on there. So be excited to race all those stuff and all the other things on iRacing. Also today, the iRacing arcade game came out today, which that looks like kind of more of a very laid back version of iRacing or something. So definitely if you're more of a extremely casual racing game player and just want to go on there and play a cartoonized version of iRacing. That seems like an interesting get on there to purchase on PC. I think it's on console as well. So I would have to pick that up. If you want to have more of a laid back version, you can do it with your friends that maybe don't or aren't as serious into sim racing or anything like that. Just want to have kind of Mario Kart style type of gameplay. That's probably fitting as there as well. So we'll be on there later in the week, I guess. Maybe do some streaming for Phoenix for IndyCar, I think, or NASCAR Phoenix as well. So get on there potentially. We'll see, and do some races on there on the sim. You can always follow that at Twitch TV/UCLR2 for the streams. Of course, for me personally, JP I'll find on Twitter. Go on there and follow me on there, and then Gripship Podcast on YouTube. We'll have everything uploaded on there, and then of course the photography page, Josh Huffine Photography. Hopefully have photos from St. Petersburg up there soon, and post there. Uploaded the Daytona Roar Before the 24 photos on there recently, so hope to have more stuff there posted soon. So glad to go to St. Petersburg again. Haven't been there in a few years for racing and everything, and definitely fairly enjoyable seeing all the different vantage points of the racetrack and all that stuff. So it was a pretty entertaining weekend of racing overall. Hopefully now Formula One's back, be even more entertaining, hopefully, if they get the rules packaged and regulations correct there. So looking forward to all of that, and being able to talk about it next week.
Absolutely, we definitely will be talking about all that next week. And now we're definitely, if we weren't in the heart of racing season, we are now. 3 major series that we talk about on this show are all back. Episode 306 will be back next week. Talk about Formula One at Melbourne. We'll have IndyCar at Phoenix and NASCAR at Phoenix. So we'll go over all those things. We will also look at the other series I mentioned earlier, Supercross. We'll have Supercars, NHRA, F2, F3 going there, and then everything else going on in the world of racing and sports we'll talk about here on the Grip Strip Podcast. For me, you can find us at the Grip Strip Podcast YouTube page, GSP1428. Also on the Motorsport Reports, you can find me on there doing some articles and stuff for George and them. PG Matthew 28 on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, PGMGSP 28. Find the Gripster podcast at philipgmatthew.com and podbean.com. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, liking the whole bit. Let your friends know about us, and we will see you next time.